Hello and welcome to episode 258 of the Paint All the Minis podcast. We put the show together so you can have something to listen to whilst you are sitting at your hobby desk and painting your miniatures of any scale, genre or game. Our aim is to have a relaxed and genuine conversation with someone who's as involved in the hobby as you are from any level, top to bottom, because we do have our own unique and individual stories which are all interesting. So sit at your hobby desk, paint your models, listen to the chat. We really do hope that you enjoy the content. This week I talked to Alex of the Alex Paints Tiny Things YouTube channel. We have the usual rambly chat about his own hobby history, his likes and highlights. We also dig into a bit of competitive painting and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. I'm pretty sure that I mentioned this during the show, but I generalise Scottish people a little bit, and I just wanted to ensure before you get into the show that this is mentioned in jest, and I'm totally and fully aware that you can't generalize people based on any particular characteristic they may or may have. It is lighthearted banter. I don't think it was too savage, but I just wanted to throw it out there here initially because I don't want to upset anybody. I don't think that anyone would be upset. I don't think Alex was upset. I'm also aware that I'm building this up now, and you probably listen to it like, yeah, what are you on about? That's just normal stuff. But I just wanted to kind of throw it out there, and it's always a fine line sometimes between wanting to be relaxed and have a bit of banter and also potentially sailing close to the wind. I don't think that I crossed any lines during the show, but I just wanted to throw it out there just in case, so you know that any mistake that you may perceive is unintentional and honest. But anyway, it was great talking to Alex. He was really insightful and really interesting, and his video work makes for positive learning experiences. Really good YouTube channel that I watch quite a lot of. He did a video quite recently about rust for beginners. So I've painted lots of rust before, but it was great just to watch it to refresh memory about certain things, and also to pick up a few little bits and validate stuff that I already did as well. So it was a really good learning experience all the way around. A little bit of validation, a little bit of remembering stuff, and a little bit of new stuff too. So that's the thing with I think maybe just me, like getting old and stuff. I might paint rust on something, but then not paint it for a while. So just having that refresh of, oh yeah, that's what I do. So I don't have to relearn the same stuff all the time. And so hop along and go and check out his videos. They're all really good. Don't forget, you can dig back through the show catalogue. There's 257 plus other episodes in the bank there you can kind of go back and check out. And if you do go back into the back catalogue and you dig up a little bit of a treasure, then let us know about it. It'd be really good to hear about a show that you've listened to from the past that you appreciated or liked, or something that a ghost, technically it is not a ghost. It's not a ghost because the person might be dead, but a ghost of the past, a whisper from the past. If there's anything that you found interesting, let us know, because if they said anything or done anything that you found insightful, anything that was like you're brought up that didn't really exist at the time that has now come to fruition, because we're talking about going back to like 2017, so we've been here a long time. So if anything from those past shows kind of jumps out to you, let us know, because it'd be good to have a chat and bring up those fond memories from the past. Don't forget, if you want to come and hang out with fellow like-minded hobby nerds, you can click on the link to the Discord server in the description. You can come and get involved in our weekly quiz, our weekly jokes, our paint model exchange, our weekly league that we play, all the models that we paint and share, our films and books. There's a whole bunch of different categories that you can get involved in. Also, you can email me, paintalltheminis@gmail.com if you so desire. Thanks a lot to Matthew, who emailed me this week on post Ramble on the back end of the last show. I talked about mental health and some stuff that we're going to be doing on mental health as we move towards Mental Health Awareness next month in October. Sorry, what am I on about? I'm sitting on a treadmill recording this, and I am sitting on the treadmill, and I've got a CrossFit kind of jumping box as my desk. So there you go, I'm doing the tour of the intros. So yeah, sitting on a treadmill and using a CrossFit jump box as a little bit of a desk going on. The treadmill's not on, by the way. I'm not running on it, I'm just sitting, just parking my backside on it. So thanks a lot for Matthew for emailing me about mental health. It was really great to hear his story, and I'm going to be working with him over the next few weeks on an article or a post or potentially a podcast. I'm not quite sure yet about mental health and our mental health and how we manage that and deal with that, as well as having an individual standalone show in October, on October 11th, I think it is. 10th or 11th, where we'll put that out and we'll talk about life and what it throws our way and how we deal with that. But anyway, that is enough of the pre-ramble. I hope you guys are good. I'll touch base with you as we get into the post-ramble. So if you're interested in a little bit more ramblage at the back end, or you forget to press pause, then I'll see you on the flip side. Let's go.
Paint all the minis that you can. And when you paint your minis, listen to that podcast with Dan Adams, that is.
What is good? To paint your minis, see them deployed on the table, and hear the lamentations of neckbeards.
So hey, I am here with Alex. How's it going, Alex?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You are what I would consider to be a friendly jock. Are you aware of the friendly jocks and the non-friendly jocks? Is that something that you've heard of before?
No, not at all.
No. So, a Glaswegian would be a non-friendly Scottish person, a non-friendly jock. But you're from the kind of like more the countryside and smaller towns of Scotland, and so I would consider you to be a friendly Scottish person. Is that something you've ever heard of before? Something you agree with or disagree with?
Oh, I mean, the Edinburgh-Glasgow divide is one that you've got to be careful when you tread that line, especially if you're in Scotland. My hometown is Edinburgh. I live just outside Perth now, but I've always been kind of East Coast, but my wife is West Coast, so she would have you for that. But no, I've not heard of the jocks I've heard of. Friendly and unfriendly, that delineation I've not come across before. But I have. It's funny. I've had people. I'm obviously Scottish. That's my accent. But a lot of people say that my accent is not. Lots of people will always say, "Oh, I've got a friend who's also from Scotland, and they don't sound anything like you.
Right.
They're really difficult to understand."
Yeah.
But I have that a softer accent for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly it. You don't sound like you're immediately going to stab me if I've got the wrong colour shoes on.
Yeah, I'm not a threat. Let's make that clear.
That's cool. So, are you a proud Scotsman?
I wouldn't necessarily. Yes, I'm proud to be Scottish, but I'm not the sort of person that's going to make that my identity.
Okay.
I think, and there's a distinction, I suppose, to be made. I don't want to get too political with anything, but I do love Scotland. I think it's a beautiful country. I think if you've not visited, you should definitely check it out. There are lots of really nice things to see, but the same could be said for a lot of countries. So it's not like we're better than everybody else.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, so you're proud of where you're from, but not at the detriment to others. Yeah, I get that. That's cool.
Exactly.
What would you say is, you mentioned it's really beautiful. So what would be, if someone's looking to have a few days in Scotland, maybe they're going to London and they've got a little bit of extra time, what would be, a place that you would recommend people go in as a first place to experience?
I would say... So Edinburgh is the most popular place in Scotland. It's the number one place visited, but that's for a reason. It is well worth seeing as a city. It's not a big city. It's quite manageable. It's walkable. There's lots of really interesting architecture and history. And it's got a stonking great castle in the middle. So that's always quite nice for people to see. I would say you can also, if you want to go north, public transport is possible, but you're better getting your own transport and driving up towards Glencoe. Yeah. Glencoe would be my favourite place in Scotland. And you could go all the way up to probably Skye, which is west, sort of northwest. It's not as far north as you can go. It's one of the Western Isles, but it's quite accessible. but the problem is it's also the second most popular place in Scotland to visit for tourists. So like like the tourists are getting it right, they're going to the right places, but there are lots of beautiful places all over Scotland. So you don't have to travel far out of the city to find mountains, lochs, really beautiful forests and stuff. And I guess my favourite area would be like the Stirling and the Trossachs up to the West Highlands, so up to Glencoe and that kind of area, because it's just majestic. I mean, it's like you can't really. It's hard to equate it to anywhere else in the UK. Certainly, I know that like around Snowdon in Wales kind of reminded me a lot of Scotland.
It's different, though, isn't it? It's like it's rugged, it's more rugged, and that's it's the scale, and you don't really realize it from pictures. If you're there, you're like, oh, okay, now I see it, you know. That's cool, man. That's awesome. That's really good. I do take the mickey sometimes with my Scottish friends, but I do really like Scotland. I really like the people. I really like the mentality. I really like the nature that's there, and the kind of just the zest for life that a lot of Scottish people have is really cool. It's something that I really appreciate. But anyway, that's enough compliments for the Scottish people. Let's move on. So we know that you have got your own YouTube channel, but for people who maybe haven't heard of that, or maybe only heard of it in the introduction to the show that we've just put on, tell us a little bit about your podcast channel and give us a synopsis about what we would see if we logged in and checked out.
So yeah, it's a funny one. So I have a YouTube channel, Alex Paints, or Alex Paints Tiny Things, and it started off the back of a suggestion from someone who was watching me paint on Twitch. And I had started doing Twitch because I thought, I quite fancy painting online and building a little community that way, and not really thinking too much about it. And somebody had kind of said, do you know, the way you explain things is really good. You should totally start a YouTube channel and explain like basic concepts for people that want to get into the hobby, into Warhammer, into miniature painting. And I was like, I've never really approached YouTube as a way to put content out there. And I'd been on Instagram for a long time, just putting up work in progress pictures and things that I'd finished. And like since 2018, I'd just been doing that and putting up stuff that I'd painted without ever really even thinking about it. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll do a couple of videos for YouTube and see what happens, and kind of put some basics together, because I thought, well, I can refer people to those. I can build a library of, here's how to prime your mini, here's how to paint the base layers, here's how to do the edge highlighting, just so that I had things to point people towards when they said, how do you do that? And I did one video which was like, I bought the starter set. It was a basic, like I think it was a Space Marines and Tyranids. Maybe it was just Space Marines. Either way, I bought this Infernus Marines starter set, and you get paints and you get a brush and you get the Marines, and they're all push fit and everything. And I thought, well, let's see how someone who's been painting for however many years I've been doing it approaches this, which is designed for beginners. And I made this video, and it just did really well. Like frighteningly well. And I was like, oh wow, okay, I've suddenly got a bit of an audience here. Maybe I should pursue this YouTube thing and actually make a go of it. Now my worry is I become the starter set guy, because I did a few starter set videos and they have done quite well. And I'm at this point now where I'm like, I really appreciate that my videos are being watched by people who are new to the hobby. And I love that they're coming in, they're seeing my videos, and they're wanting to do the hobby for the most part. I mean, that's not to say my videos they're not great. There's a couple of bits in that starter video where I say, oh great, it's the worst painted Space Marine you've ever seen, and it's not that badly painted, and everyone's like, oh well, it's a lot better than I could do, and I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I don't want to put you off the hobby. So there's like that aspect, but and I love that it's encouraging beginners to get into the hobby, because the more people in the hobby, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a great hobby to be involved in. and it's nice that it's a hobby that doesn't always involve a screen. It's relaxing and all the benefits that you would associate with it. But the other side of my own personal hobby stuff is competition painting or display painting.
Okay.
So since last year, sort of late 2024, I decided I would start taking painting for competition a bit more seriously and trying to just be as good a painter as I could be. Because the painting side of it is what I love more than anything. I'm not really all that interested in the gaming side. Right. And so now I'm at this point where I'm giving people reasonably easy to follow guides to paint things, and I'm talking about being a beginner in the hobby for those who have started, but I'm balancing that with the rest of the time I'm painting to what I would consider to be a higher standard. Yeah. And I don't know how much that's going to translate for people who are beginners, right? Because you don't, and a lot of people have said, oh, well, all the videos on YouTube that I'm seeing are either for absolute beginners who want to dry brush an entire army in 3 days, or for people who want to spend the next 3 years painting one miniature for a competition. And there's no middle ground. Right, okay, and I'm maybe I need to be the middle ground. So I don't know. I'm kind of at a point where
I'm what happens with it.
Yeah, I should. What I do quite enjoy doing videos on is almost the philosophy of it. Why is it that we're interested in miniature things? Yeah. Why is it that I'm competing? I'm not a competitive person. Why do I like going to painting competitions and events? So there's I want to explore more of that side, but those videos don't really do well, if we say do well in inverted commas. They don't do well on YouTube. So
well, that's cool, man. We got a really good placeholder there, and I'd like to pick around. I'd like to pick around those ideas later because I think they're really interesting. You mentioned a whole bunch of things there that are super, super interesting. But let's go. Let's in order to kind of have that conversation from a much stronger place, it's important to kind of get to know you. So you mentioned that painting at your highest level is something that is really appealing to you. So has that always been a thing as we kind of rewind back the way in time? How did you first start getting involved in this hobby? And was painting your primary goal, or was that something that came later?
So I think I've always enjoyed the painting aspect of it, but my memory is terrible. So if we go back to when I first discovered Warhammer, or Games Workshop as it was at the time, I think, and I had to ask my mum about this recently, but I think it was primary school.
We can get her on if you want. You can add her to the call. And she can fact check everything.
She said, she always said that Warhammer was great. She really encouraged me to do it because she said it was the only time where you could get a handful of boys, primary school or secondary school age, in the house, and you wouldn't even know they were there because it was silent when we were all just sitting painting things in the kitchen at the dining table or something like that. And she said it was absolutely incredible. So she always encouraged that, and she always encouraged me to be artistic. And from a young age, I've always known that I wanted to be a designer as a profession, a graphic designer. So I think I've always been more interested in the visual painting side than I have the gaming side. And probably the fact that I'm not competitive also encourages that, because there isn't really that competitive element to the painting. Certainly if you're new to the hobby, you're just painting your minis and enjoying it for what it is, which is great. So I think it was always something that I did more than the gaming. And I had a friend at school who seemed to know all the rules, and I always felt like he was making up the rules when we played. And it would always end in tears because I would want to do something. He said, "Oh no, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that." And then it would be a disaster. I'd be like, "Oh, that's not a fun experience for me." Whereas if we were painting, you're only really competing, not the right word, but you're only really measuring yourself against your previous efforts. So as long as I was improving at painting, that was where I got my satisfaction.
Okay, that's really interesting. Can you remember your first minis? I know you might need to get your mum on a bell, but can you remember what you first got? Was it like a Christmas thing, birthday thing?
No, I don't remember. I have sort of occasional flashbacks of models that I would paint. So I remember all the single piece. I think they were Gretchens, like orcs and Gretchens, was it, with the sideways gun? And I don't know what edition of Warhammer that was.
Second edition 40k, yeah.
So I think
the Trillions, those little Gretchen guys with the big auto guns. Then there's some like bigger orc guys with the axes and the bolt pistol.
I remember liking the look of Eldar, but I don't think I ever painted any. And I'm pretty sure I had Space Marines because I think everybody had Space Marines at the time. But I remember my friends' Space Marines more than mine. I'm pretty sure I did Dark Angels for a while because I liked their color scheme. And I think I either had or always wanted an Azrael Mini. And to this day have never owned one.
Need to get one, mate. Yeah, they just released a new one fairly recently, a couple of years ago. So that's cool. So
I should really pick it up.
Yeah, you definitely should, mate. Treat yourself. Why not? So as you kind of picked up the hobby, you mentioned that painting was what you liked the most. So were you painting even then to a good level? Can you remember like painting?
Definitely
Do you
not.
still have it? No, definitely not. What were you painting?
I was painting. It definitely wasn't to a good level because I always remember looking at my friends and thinking, oh, they can paint really well. Why am I not able to do that? However, I wasn't as bad as one of my friends who would just dip his minis into the paint and that would be the way that he painted. I was like, okay, well, I know I'm not that bad.
Well, it's painted. It's painted. Yeah, they're getting that.
It is technically painted. But back then, there was no penalties for not having, for having an unpainted army, right? So it was less of an issue. But no, I didn't, I don't think I was particularly good at painting. I was probably fairly average for a beginner. Mm-hmm. So,
you mentioned that you weren't a fan of playing and you kind of wanted to do certain things in a game, but you kind of were told that you couldn't do that. So how serious was that aspect, or was it just a fleeting thing?
Not serious at all. I think I always thought, it'd be quite good to paint to game, and I always thought it'd be quite good to kind of be someone who was quite good at gaming, especially like Blood Bowl seemed like a very manageable game to get into and try and play. But the reality was we just didn't do it so much. We just didn't game so much. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that was because we just couldn't build the armies in time, or if we just didn't have the motivation. Mm-hmm. But me and the group of friends that I had, I remember us being more sitting around painting rather than sitting around gaming. Yeah. And so that's always just been, that's just been my thing.
Nice. That's cool. And so what about kind of loosely hobby related, but kind of more like lore and books and movies about fantasy and sci-fi? Were you kind of into that stuff as a kid as well? Because you mentioned that you always knew and thought that you were going to be a designer. So did that kind of film and lore and book world entice you also?
So fantasy at the time, probably less so. I think I've always been aware of it. I've certainly probably always warmed more towards sci-fi than anything in terms of a genre. I like, so the design aspect of what I do, I think means that I'm very into sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And I'm into sci-fi from a point of view of, oh wow, so that's what that person thought or thinks that we're going to be doing in the future. Yeah. Like you can give me any sci-fi, or I say traditional, like hard sci-fi stuff, spaceships, that kind of thing, and I will watch it because I'm interested in the design of all of the things. And it can be the worst sci-fi story ever, but if you put a spaceship landing in, the usual tropes, like you put in robots or anything like that, I will watch it because the design of those things is interesting to me. Yeah. And quite often, like, the colors and the way that things are rendered is interesting to me. So it's definitely from that kind of visual side that I get my interest. And I guess you don't get that so much with fantasy because, okay, you might get an interesting colored dragon or some elves or something like that, but all of that feels much more grounded in things that are real, like people would, the natural elements often come through more in fantasy and high fantasy than they do in sci-fi.
Yeah, I get that. That's really cool. Have you got any examples of something that you saw in a sci-fi movie or read in a comic or something that you just thought, like, that's amazing and kind of blew your mind?
Not from when I was much younger, but I do. Well, actually, do you know what I remember? I remember really enjoying a game on the PlayStation 1 called G Police, and I remember, you were just like, I guess you were a police, sort of futuristic police person, cutting about in a helicopter in this domed city. And it sticks out to me. Now, I have subsequently downloaded it on the PS5 and played it. You know how they often re-release old titles, and it's rubbish. It's a rubbish game. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is the coolest thing ever!" Like, and it was that like vision of the future that I sort of warmed to, and I guess. And it's not that that's necessarily come through, that specifically has come through in my hobby, but a lot of the models and the stuff that I like to paint and like to do tend to be on the more of the sci-fi side. Although, I mean, that said, I do quite enjoy painting like Middle-earth miniatures and the fantasy side of things as well. But I feel like I have to push myself harder to look at those miniatures than I do if it's like a robot or a sci-fi bust or something like that. I can much more easily get into that and be like, yeah, I'm going to paint this because it's going to be like just metal and flesh and, you know, all these different mad colors, and I can just kind of, you know, go to town on it.
So how did you transition from not really taking painting too seriously when you were a kid to taking it very seriously and entering competitions? How did that happen?
Well, I did that like classic thing where you're into it at school and then it becomes not very cool as you go through high school and into university, and you forget all about it, and then someone mentions it. And it was like, I think it was about 2018 or late 2017 when I was at a party, and a friend of a friend was into Warhammer, and I was like, oh, I used to be into that. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he was telling me all about it. And I kind of felt that enthusiasm through him for the hobby again. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and actually another friend had just posted a picture of some Space Marines that he'd painted on his Instagram. And I was like, oh, no way. I used to paint those. Like, and it brought back all these memories of what I enjoyed about the hobby. And I thought, oh, I'll just have a quick look at what they're doing these days. I'll just maybe check it out, not wanting to commit too much to that. And obviously here I am, like thousands of pounds later, like, you know, shoulder deep in boxes of miniatures. But it kind of the wanting to paint well. So when I got back into it, I was like, I know I'm not going to be doing a huge amount of gaming.
Why? Because is it a competitive thing still, or what? Time?
Well, no, it was just a matter of, I think it was more like time and having the ability to get together with mates, getting us all organized to play it. And it was really, I mean, I only have like probably let's say 4 or 5 pals that I speak to regularly about the hobby that are even in Scotland, and actually they're back in Edinburgh, so it's not like we can get together all that regularly to game. We always say we will, but it never happens. And so I'm like, well, the hobby is quite a solitary thing for me if you kind of, well, it was at the time. If you look back at 2018, 2019, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna see how well I can paint these things, and I became obsessed with making small things look as realistic as possible. Like, how can I get this wood to look like real wood? And it was just that sort of thing that led me to start painting. And it was 2019, I decided I would enter Golden Demon, and I'd never done that before. I'd entered a local competition in the Edinburgh store and got my little mini in the cabinet, but I hadn't really, I don't think I won anything. I think it was maybe 3rd place or something. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a mini, and I'm gonna do it as best I can and take it to Golden Demon, which in 2019 was Coventry. And I like rented a car and drove down there myself with my miniature and put it in. And that 2019 Golden Demon, which was Warhammer Fest, was the last good Warhammer Fest event. But because of that, I got the excitement. I managed to come away with a finalist pin, and I was like hooked from then on. But only ever really assumed it was Golden Demon. It wasn't till last year that I was like, maybe I'll take some miniatures along to like a local event, a Scale Scotland event, and see how they do, because I feel like I'm maybe good enough to compete now. And the more events that I started going to, the more I realized it wasn't the competing that I liked about it. It was the community. It was seeing everybody else's entries. It was shopping, because I'm a shopaholic. It was seeing all the miniatures in the flesh and enjoying that and the social side of it more than the actual putting into the competition. Although I will still put minis in and try and compete. And one of my personal goals is to win some sort of golden demon. Like, I would love to win a trophy just to say that I've got it, even if it's a bronze. I don't mind. I just want to have that and say, right, I've done that. I can go on and be maybe a more artistic painter.
Because that's quite dedicated. There's a lot of dedication that goes into painting to your best level, and to go to the effort to go to that competition, and to put yourself out there where you might be a little bit vulnerable to critique from various different people. So why did you decide to go on that route straight away, pretty much, instead of just let's just slap some paint on and just have a bit of a laugh with a beer on a Friday night?
I think I was painting so much that I had got the satisfaction from it of just painting, like just doing the painting and putting, maybe building an army in the hopes that maybe one day I'll actually be able to play with it. But I think, I'm not really sure.
No, but it's good. It's interesting to unpick it, though, isn't it? Because I love painting, but I don't think I'd ever get involved in a competition, and that's neither better nor worse. It's just different. But I've come to that assumption, and I also wonder why I would never enter a painting competition. But it seems to be like you want that, you're striving for that. Is it like just a personal thing? Like you wanna just see how good you can do? I don't know.
It might be. I'm thinking maybe the fact that I was able to walk away with a pin from my first golden demon gave me that like enthusiasm for it. It gave me the satisfaction that you get from entering and coming away with something, because a lot of people will enter and come away with nothing and think, that's maybe not for me. That's fine. Like I'll just go back to painting for enjoyment. But being able to say, I've got this, and you're suddenly on a ranking with other painters. And although I'm not competitive, I would like to be the best painter that I could be. And that's...
Well, that is competitive.
It's not that I'm competing
with yourself, right? You're competing
exactly.
with yourself,
right? I'm competing against myself, or maybe I'm competing against, let's say, the global standard. And I want to be as good as I can be. What I would really like is to be respected for my painting. I want people to look at my painting and be like, this guy knows what he's doing. Sorry, my door is about to go.
Is it moments?
Oh no, it's fine. Right, okay, it just went through the door. That's okay. So I want to be able to measure myself against this global standard. I kind of feel like I want to be respected as a painter, but not in a way that gives me like fame and fortune, just in a way that people will look at my stuff and go, I really like, I love the way that Alex did that, X, Y, and Z, and inspire other people to get involved in the hobby. It's not really about me being the best and being like, yes, I'm the best, I'm number one. It's about me being like, look, everyone, look what you can also achieve, and let's all enjoy the hobby together. Like that's almost sounds like a canned answer. Do you know what I mean?
No, I get it. I get it though completely. And let me kind of paraphrase it back and kind of see if it resonates. It's like there's different sorts of competition. There's like direct competition, which would be like one rugby team against another, where like you've got the Scotland rugby team against the Welsh rugby team, and that is direct competition. Whichever is the stronger team wins that day. But then you've also got other sports which are more like indirect competition, like golf, for example, where I don't think the golfers believe that they are playing against each other. They're playing against the course. They are posting a score. they are posting a standard and they're seeing if anyone else can beat that standard. So it's different types of competition, right? And also I've been to a few different painting shows, and what I really enjoy is looking at those minis and seeing the effects that they've created, or seeing certain you mentioned it before, like certain realistic things in miniature, like chipping on a shield, for example. And I just like to look and appreciate the care that someone's taken, even just with those small shields, and that recognition and the connection that you can have with someone. It's like, mate, I've got a little bit of an idea about how difficult that is and how long that took you, and I just want to recognize the fact that you did that, because realistically it's you're not talking about feeding millions of starving people. I wouldn't say it's pointless. I don't believe that it is pointless, but in terms of human survival, physically it maybe isn't the highest on the rankings, but the fact that you kind of knew that and you did that anyway, it means more. It's like, hey, I know that you sat there, you did that, you thought about it, it was trial and error, lots of experience came to bear when you're doing that. It looks amazing. Just, dude, well done. Like, just the recognition and the shared recognition that I think from your side is like, someone recognizes that took me freaking ages and that was really difficult. That shared connection, that's special, right?
I think what I like is you go to these shows, and I'm going to call them shows instead of competitions, because I think that's a better word for them. But if you go to these shows and you see these painted miniatures, it's hugely satisfying to look at everybody else's miniatures. It's also massively inspirational, because you come away from all of these shows desperate to do more painting. You're like, I've got so many ideas for the next show that I'm going to put these things in, I'm going to put these together, and even if you're just painting them for your own satisfaction, the inspiration you get from these shows is brilliant. And as a result, and I don't know if I've ever really consciously thought about this, but maybe my efforts are in an attempt to give other people that inspiration and satisfaction. Like, if you look at one of my minis and you go, that's great, that's really inspired me to go and do my own version or something else, it's caused some sort of trigger in my mind and I've thought about something, and that's what I'm going to go and do, and you've inspired me to do more hobby, and that is a great thing.
That's
and
really,
coming back to the indirect competition thing, it's a really interesting situation, because even with golf, they're all kind of more or less doing it at the same time. But with these painting shows that have the competition element, you've done the work already. So you can't go and improve. It's not like a head-to-head. I know they have like the 1 hour painting challenges or that sort of thing. But Golden Demon don't even do the category where everybody paints the same miniature anymore. So they've got this thing where it is a competition, but the work, you've already done the work, and nobody's saying you can only spend 8 hours on this. It's like, spend as long as you want. And so the worry is that, I suppose, the people that spend the most amount of time tend to get better results. And that's not true across the board, but it's kind of an interesting thing that just popped into my head. But the reality is,
competition maybe.
The reality is you've done all the work, so all you're doing is taking it and kind of hoping that you'll win the Golden Demon lottery, as I like to call it now.
Okay, that's cool. So if we kind of went back to when you first started painting seriously, or trying to paint seriously, how were you developing and improving your craft? Was it just you're doing it? Did you buy like a book? Were you accessing YouTube videos? Like, how were you developing and improving your craft in painting?
I tried to consume as much information as possible on the topic. So books, I definitely had books. A lot of books on weathering, weirdly. Got really into the whole weathering thing. So more like scale model techniques. So that was a big thing for me for a while. I spent a lot of time looking at people's tutorials on YouTube, trying to digest that. Everything from like the simpler end of just here's how, Warhammer do it, right through to people like Rich Gray and his kind of like very textual approach and more traditional art-led style and that sort of stuff. I was on various Patreons. I would subscribe and try and get as much of that as possible. But the reality is none of that on its own, that doesn't make you a better painter. It gives you information, but practice is the only thing that's really, like, intentional practice is the only thing that's going to make you a better painter. So I had to say, right, I'm going to use this miniature to paint a particular technique, or right, I'm going to do glazing on this cloak in order to get good at glazing. I'm going to try and figure out the best brush that will allow me to do the best edge highlights on this, and so it became more about just doing it as much as possible. And I'm by no means an expert, but I feel like now I'm at the point where, okay, I've sort of got a good enough grasp of most of the techniques that it becomes more about things like color selection and composition and building contrast and understanding what makes a good competition piece. But it's taken me a long time to get there, and it started like, well, that 2019 Golden Demon entry was an onager dune crawler, and I only did it because I'd never seen one done on an actual dune, and so I sculpted a dune for it out of like sand and clay, and put it on there and painted it up and weathered it. And I'd more or less followed a tutorial for that dune crawler. There was a guy doing like grim dark stuff called Zach Cascagoon, I think, or something like that his name was, on YouTube, and he had this tutorial. He now is involved in the Grimdark Compendium, and they do villainy inks and all that kind of stuff now, but at the time he was just doing YouTube videos, and it was a lot of like rust and streaking grime effects and chipping effects and paint and everything. And I was like, great, that makes it look cool, and I don't need to learn how to glaze, or you know, like I can get away with doing some edge highlights, and actually it'll get me a long way there. And then between 2019 and 2023, well, because we had COVID, I couldn't get to any competitions or shows, and I really only knew about Golden Demon, and they did Ever Chosen, but that was kind of a disaster. And so 2023 was the first one I did after that, which was the Manchester Golden Demon, which was a bit of a disaster as an event anyway.
Why? And
so then it was really like 2024 that I started taking it more seriously, which is only, I mean, last year. So
why did you say that things maybe weren't as good, the Ever Chosen and the Manchester event? What was it that in your opinion made it fall flat?
Ever Chosen was a valiant attempt at this competition that everybody could kind of be involved with remotely, but it's a difficult one when you can't see the miniatures in person for a start. So it becomes a photography competition more than a painting competition, and the popularity contest element of it meant that, you know, because it's done on public. It was done on public votes, I think, at least in the first instance. And I don't know if that's the best way to run a competition. So, and maybe I'm just bitter about it because I thought I had a really good entry and it just got ignored. It could be that, but I don't think I'm the only person that felt like that wasn't necessarily the best competition. And then the Golden Demon in Manchester, which was, well, it was Warhammer Fest in Manchester 2023, was just really poorly organised. And what's funny is I speak to the painters that I know now who enter competitions, and they're like, it was a badly organised event, but we still enjoyed it because the aspect of the shows that we go to was still there. Like the aspect that we enjoy of the shows was the community, and that was still there. So we didn't mind that Golden Demon. But from someone who was still trying to get into it, and I went along with a couple of mates, and you spend most of your time in a queue. You couldn't meet anyone. So in 2019, I met Duncan Rhodes. I met a bunch of heavy metal painters. They launched the contrast paint, and so there was a lot of talk about that. There were like discussions from people who built the scenery for the Warhammer World exhibitions and all sorts of stuff. And you could go and meet these people. You could see the miniatures. You could see the larger scales of the miniatures that they would print to kind of like the artist proof type stuff. And there was a lot to do. So as a solo traveler, it was great. And then Manchester, they removed all of that, and it became just, it was just an advert for the latest release of 40K. There were a few talks, there was a store, and it was all the games that they licensed and very little else. Unless you're a gamer, in which case there was the whole gaming side of it. But I was like, there's nothing for me here. So actually, me and the two guys that I went with ended up going to the ice hockey in Nottingham for the weekend instead of spending our time at the actual event. So it didn't feel like a very well organized thing. And actually, I think Warhammer, and then there are a lot of stories about this, I don't know what is true, but I think they kind of threw the toys out of the pram after that and said, oh, well, we're not, if you're not going to appreciate the events that we're putting on for you, well, we'll just tie it in with the European things now. So that's why Golden Demon has gone to Spiel. I don't know all the details. I don't want to
I get that. So
spread rumors, but
no, I get it. Why not scale modeling then? Because you mentioned that when you were first thinking about doing weathering, it was so why not scale modeling? Because you're not that interested in playing. I mean, I don't like. I do like scale modeling, but I don't do scale modeling because once I've finished, I've got no application for it. It just the model sits around.
Right.
So I like tabletop gaming because I like the playing the game, and then I can use the minis that I paint. I like the painting and I like the playing, so that's like an efficient use of my hobby time. So why didn't you go into scale modeling? Was that a consideration, or was it always just 40K?
No, when I was a kid, I used to have Airfix models and stuff, and I used to like making the airplanes. But I get your point, though. When it's made, and that's it, and it just kind of sits about and gathers dust, or you hang it from your ceiling on a bit of wire or something. But I think that is the case when I was younger. Nowadays, I have a little display cabinet. I like to put what I've done in there on its plinth or whatever, and every so often I'll go and have a look at it and be like, oh yeah, I did that was good. And if anybody comes round to the house, they can see it and enjoy it as well. And as you do pieces, you kind of tour them to each competition or each show that you go to, and it gets out there to see. And I like to see more people putting all of their miniatures into like open shows just to show them so that we can all enjoy everybody's work. But to get back to the scale modeling thing, I didn't really pick it up again when I kind of rejoined the hobby in 2018, although I was looking at all the techniques. I think because probably the historical side of things has never necessarily appealed to me. And the technicalities of things like ordnance and building tanks and planes, a lot of the scale modelers put a lot of emphasis on making sure those models are built properly and not so much on how they're the creativity that goes into painting them. And so I do appreciate the realism, but I want to be able to do the realism on my own terms. Like if I want to make a tank red instead of grey, then I want to be able to do that. And the scale modeling environment community doesn't necessarily favor that kind of thing. So but the other side of it is I didn't know these scale model shows really existed. And I only went to one, the first one that I went to, which was called Scale Scotland. It was held at Murrayfield Stadium in Edinburgh, a reasonably small scale show, and they had a competition, which I decided to put a bunch of stuff in for. But I only heard of that because I had a friend that went last year, and he was like, oh, like they have a little competition. We should put something in for it. And that was the point where I was like, oh, do you know what? I think I might start doing that. And so from there, I went to Scale Model Challenge in Eindhoven. And then from there, it was South Wales Miniature Open, and then MPO Online, and then Salute, and then MPO in person again, and then this year Fen Model Show. And suddenly I'm like, oh, I all of these shows encompass a degree of scale modeling, but they're not exclusively scale model shows. But you start seeing all the same people at them, and then you start going because you're going to see the people, and it's more about the people going and seeing what whoever what their latest piece is, and that sort of thing becomes more of the enjoyment than it does about, okay, well, I went and I got a bronze or whatever. That's really cool.
Would you say that you have a style? Because you got like heavy metal is a style. Do you have a style that you would say defines you and what you try to do?
I would love to say yes, but I don't know. And I'm not even sure I'm the person that can answer that. I think, I suppose as I develop as a painter, it may be evident. I don't know if I have a style at the moment. I do lean into texture quite heavily at the moment, but that's not that's unique to me. I'm not applying the texture in a way that's unique. But like every painter, the more you work in the way that you're working, the more your style is going to develop. Like I had the same, and I don't necessarily want to change the subject, but I had the same thing with my music production is, do I have a style am I working within a genre here? And is this limiting me? Do I want to be known for a particular style, or do I want to be able to surprise people and say, well, oh, here, listen, I've done this and it's ultra realistic scale modeling now, that's my thing. Or like, oh, hey, well, I went super colorful with this one and I don't normally do that, or, something like that. So I think there's value in being able to be flexible, but like if I look at someone, so I'm going to name Ted, who is one of our Get Good. So I'm part of the Get Good community, which is a Discord and a Patreon. And there's a guy, Ted, in there who I have watched his painting develop. And he has quite a distinctive style, to the point now if I see a picture of his work, I'll be like, Ted did that. And it's great. And he came away with a gold medal at Fen this year. And I think it was like massively well deserved. I think his stuff is incredible. And he's one of the only painters that I would love to see how he paints. I'd love to watch him paint. And there's only like 2 or 3 painters that I would love to watch paint. Him, Lucas from Phoenix Miniature Art, and what's his name? David from Diddy Miniatures, or like, I don't know his brand exactly, but he has these really beautiful colors. And I've said to myself, if there's any way that I can actually watch them paint, I would love to just be able to observe how they do their brush marks and their color application and everything.
So just before we talk about the YouTube channel and stuff, what about the future? Are you still going to continue to enter your painting competitions? And is there any that you're going to be at within the next kind of 12 months that people might be able to catch up with you at?
Yes, I'm planning to do SMC and Spiel in Essen this year. So SMC is in Eindhoven, and it's the weekend before Spiel in Essen. So I'm going to drive over and go to both of them.
Nice.
And Golden Demon is the event that's at Spiel. Although Spiel is like a huge board game thing. It's incredible. Like the scale of it is mind-boggling. But I'm going to be at both of them. I would really, really like to be able to do Monte Sansovino this year, which is a show in the middle of Tuscany. It's not the easiest to get to, but I think I can make it work. I think most figure and fantasy and sci-fi painters maybe, and maybe even scale modelers, consider it to be like the top painting competition maybe in the world. So I'd love to go and see what that's all about and understand what the community is like there and kind of meet the people there. And I think there's a lot of people that I'll know already, but that's a bit of a goal. And then I guess all of the usual shows, I want to try and get to as many going forward as I can. So I think the first one next year will probably be Salute, which is in London. And then there will be MPO, there will be Fen Model Show in Ely. There is actually Scale Scotland coming up soon, but I'm not sure I can make it this year. But it would be good to make it just to catch up with people and say, oh, like it's a year ago today that I started taking competition painting seriously, and here I am,
That's cool. I've got loads more questions I could ask you about, competition painting, like how you select your model, how you select the color palette, etc., how long it takes you to think about what you're doing as opposed to doing what you're doing. But I want to dedicate some time to the YouTube channel. So going back to our conversation before, you mentioned that you were just painting anyway, and you were painting on Twitch, and then people said, hey, you should put some stuff together. So what you also mentioned it might be in a little bit of a transition where you kind of picked up some starter sets and kind of just painted, but you're kind of still trying to define definitively what the channel is. So what can we see now? You mentioned about the starter ones. So like if we went in now and we were looking to pick up a video, like what videos would you recommend picking up from your channel that already exist?
So I've got quite a lot on my channel. I think a lot of it gets overlooked because generally people tend not to subscribe. They'll watch a video and then disappear. My subscribers are growing, but I I'm at this point where I'm putting videos out, and it is a bit random as to whether they'll do well or not, because I'm not necessarily trying to play the YouTube game.
Yeah.
And I think there's this whole, like, if you put out certain type of videos, if you mention Space Marines, for example, wow, you'll get so many more views and interactions than you would if you mention something that nobody has necessarily heard of. So there's an element of like, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and putting out videos that I want to enjoy making, or that I enjoy making or want to make, and seeing how it goes. And my hope is that doing that builds a more honest audience, or an audience that understands that I'm not necessarily trying to be famous or play this YouTube algorithm game. And in that, I would like to transition a little bit more towards either the philosophy of things or the competition end of painting, but that is difficult, right? Because as soon as you start saying, right, well, I'm going to concentrate on high level painting, you've already tripled the length of your videos, because like, people are now going to be watching you try and paint fur for 8 hours because that's just what it becomes, and I think there's a happy middle ground where it's like, maybe I can work on explaining techniques and explaining mindset and talking about that, rather than going into the details of the actual paint application, because there are plenty of people doing high level painting and showing that on Patreons or wherever they have it. And I don't see many people talking about the thought process or the philosophy behind it. And that's something that I'm like, well, I'm kind of curious about that myself. Like, I would love to know why I like miniatures. Like, I don't know why. Like, I've got an idea of why. Like, I know why I like the hobby, because it allows me to be creative. But I don't know why inherently I find things fascinating that are in miniature.
Yeah, it's like that. Even it's not like a new thing either. So I remember as like a kid, like a little miniature village. My granddad being obsessed with like this miniature village.
Yeah.
So it's not.
So like so one of the videos I'm most proud of is why do we like miniature things, and I kind of explored all of the different aspects. Like, is it control? Is it education? Is it being able to observe something more than you can if this was at life size? Is it the escapism? Is it like what is it that attracts us to things that are miniature? And I would love to explore that more and just get really into it. Because I think that's not been explored a huge amount by people in the hobby. It's
colors as well, like the meaning of colors and the derivatives of colors and things like that, and that's interesting. And there's certain books that exist which talk about that in the art world, but not too much of that has been applied to the miniature settings. So I'd be interested in stuff like that.
And it's funny because some things that we look at as miniature painters, they exist for artists, and the artists are like, we've been doing that for years. Like in my most recent video, which I paint up a little building, and I'm talking about it being 1 to 150 scale, and that's the scale of N-gauge railways, more or less. And I'm like, am I just late to the party here? And everybody's already just been doing this, and they're like, oh, okay, the Warhammer guys discovered scale modeling suddenly. Oh, welcome. Like, oh, we've been doing this a while, you'll get used to it, sort of thing. Or is it like, so there's a lot of things like that where I think I've got to be careful in being like, oh, here guys, listen, I've discovered this technique called underpainting. And then all the artists are going to be like, that's not new or like groundbreaking or anything. Like we've been doing that a long time. So, and there's an element of like, well, I don't really want to embarrass myself by trying to explain to people things that they've already heard of. But I like if I can be more esoteric about it. Like, I think the meaning of colors and the psychology of colors is interesting, because internationally that changes. As soon as you cross borders, things, colors start meaning different things. And actually the green blue thing and what we call green and blue, and historically that's changed, and there's all sorts of stuff that you can dig into. But a lot of that isn't going to be particularly interesting for people who are like, well, I just bought my first Warhammer starter set and I want to be my Space Marine. Like, like they're like, I don't really care about that. So there's like, I don't necessarily want to alienate people who are new to the hobby either, and that's a really difficult gap to bridge, you know.
Would you class
maybe
yourself as an artist?
Maybe I shouldn't need to.
Yeah, no. Well, would you class yourself as an artist? Would you say that you are an artist, a practicing artist?
Maybe. It's a really difficult one, right? Because like because then you could say, well, is miniature painting? Would you class it as art?
Yeah.
And then you get into discussions about what art is and how do we define art. And some people have very broad definitions of that. Like, you know, art is life and doing everything that you're doing. And some people are like, well, no, art has to be, it has to convey an idea or a reaction or a specific, you know, aesthetic or something like that. And I don't have an answer for that. I'm not sure if I'm an artist or not, because I am being creative within certain constraints, but am I being creative enough to consider myself someone who is, I mean, I don't know what I am if I'm not an artist, I suppose, when it comes to miniature painting. So there is that, right? Like, I'm more than a collector. I'm probably more than a hobbyist, but am I as, because I don't start with necessarily a blank canvas. But then you could say, well, some artists start with nothing, but some start with a canvas, some start with a piece of wood and carve something from that. You know, me as an artist, maybe my starting point is the figure and I do what I can with that. Although not for Golden Demon.
It's the fact that this hobby can spark those feelings and that thought. And again, I feel like we could pick that for an hour or so, just kind of thinking and talking about that. I definitely am not, but I think about it from my perspective is that when I play a tabletop game, it means so much more to me that they are painted. And I don't really know why, because whether it's like bare red plastic against bare grey plastic, it doesn't really matter in the terms of the game. But I would say that it's a much better spectacle if they are both painted. But then it goes back to what you were saying before about the obsession with miniature. It's like seeing two miniature armies fight. What's interesting about that? It's not really the fighting. I don't know what it is. It's just that, I don't know. Is it the spectacle? Is it the story? I don't know.
I was chatting to my friend about this a little while ago, and we were playing games, and I say we play games. We play games very rarely, but the games that we do play is with painted armies and it's with painted scenery. Because the one thing that drives me nuts is playing on a table that has scenery that's not painted. I just paint your scenery. It's not that difficult. But we were trying to understand why it was that we like that. And I think it's just the immersion. It makes it a much more enjoyable, immersive game if you've set the scene properly and if you've got your, you know, everything painted. You're like, okay, I'm in the game more. Like I feel like I'm more immersed within this game, and therefore the enjoyment I get out of it is heightened as a result. I think that's what it is, or that's what it would be for me. And so I don't like gaming unless I've got everything painted. So my goal before I would start a game is, well, I've got to finish painting them at least to a certain standard. And then if we're using terrain, well, I've got to make sure the terrain's painted. And actually terrain is something that I really enjoy working on because quite often you remove the character aspect of it, and so you're like, well, I'm just scene setting. And some of that is just really enjoyable to me. Okay, I'm going to do this, and actually 2 of the videos on my YouTube are like about painting up the Kill Team, I think it's the Hivestorm box, as an abandoned, overgrown kind of scenario, and that's hugely satisfying. It's in a box in my other room. I've not played a game on it, but I know that if I do play a game on it, it'll be more satisfying than it would be if it was just a bit of cardboard, or if it was just whatever the competition standard bit of MDF or plywood is. And actually, for a while, when I had the space, I was going down I want to build boards route, because I think when I was younger, I thought I would maybe end up being one of those old guys with a model railway in his attic. But I don't really care so much about the trains. It was more because I get to make this rolling hills and tunnels and rocks and all of that.
Yeah. It's just interesting, isn't it? It's just about human beings. It's what I love about human beings, how we can just get so drawn in and just so excited about this thing. Like, you know, you can zoom into your battle board and see some rocks that just look like rocks. I just don't know what it is about it. It's amazing. The fact that we care so much about it and we get excited about it. It's just I don't know about any other species or animal or anything that exists that will get excited about that. It's crazy. It makes us unique, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And if you take a step back from that, the hobby as a whole is, I love it so much because there are so many aspects to it. And there are so many things like, you know, if you like to collect and game, brilliant. I like to collect and paint. Some people just like to read the books or the audio books. Some people aren't interested in the painting at all. Like you can pick and choose what parts, like you might just be into the computer games, but that's your Warhammer, you know, or that's your hobby. And having all these different routes in, it feels like really nice and inclusive. And there's I have no shame in admitting that I'm a hobbyist, that I'm into scale modeling or that I'm into painting Warhammer. I love telling people about it. and it's nice that taboo has almost disappeared. I feel like it's not as taboo as it once was, or not taboo. Taboo's not the right word, but as like, oh, you're a nerd. You know, you sit on your own and paint these miniatures, and then you play dice rolling games. And it's just nice that it's flourished into this hobby that's big. And I suppose the only downside is that companies like Warhammer have become huge off the back of it and have sort of lost touch with what they used to be, which is like a cottage industry.
That's hard, isn't it? Because in many ways it's so great, because like you're saying, it's brought things mainstream, right? Which and that comes with many trappings. That's really positive, the things that you just alluded to there, but it also comes with some potential negatives too, you know. And it's interesting. Anyway, Alex, we're gonna have to call it a day there, you know. But there's definitely loads more conversations that we could have about certain things. I'd love to extend another invitation to you to come on a show in the future and have another chat about.
We've opened a lot of books here.
Yeah, for sure. But just before we go, so what can we expect to see on the YouTube channel over the coming months? And also, is that the only place where we can grab you? Or is there, you mentioned a Discord before, you mentioned a Patreon also. So call out the places that we can come and potentially interact with you.
So depending on what you're into, there are two places, really. YouTube, Alex Paints Tiny Things is the videos, and Instagram also Alex Paints Tiny Things, all one word, no spaces. The Instagram stuff, you're more likely to see my competition style pieces and work in progresses for that. The YouTube channel is, well, it's an evolving beast. Yeah. And so those are the two, I guess, the main areas. I'm not really sure what I want to do with it, but I have alexpaints.co.uk. And at the moment, it just links to various places, including the Discord, where people are welcome to join. And I try and offer people feedback through the Discord. I've not got to the point where that's so overwhelming that I have to monetize it in some way. It's just nice to be able to encourage people to be into the hobby and to kind of paint and game and everything. There is I'm like, do I want to start writing about things as well? Because I have a lot of things that I think would suit writing better than a video, because the video is just going to be me talking to the camera. So it might evolve into some sort of blog, but it might not. And future-wise, I mean, so I have, at the moment, I work with Hawk Miniatures, and he is a miniatures and brush producer. And so I tried his paintbrushes at Scale Scotland back in 2024, loved them, started mentioning them in my videos, and then by the time I got to SMC a couple of months later, he was like, oh, you're the reason why my sales have gone up. And I was like, yes, let's work together on something so that you know how much I'm passing to you, and I can give people brushes that are affordable for beginners, because he does Kolinsky sable brushes, natural hair, and they are like crazy affordable. I don't know how he does it, but they're like sub £4 for a brush that would cost a huge amount elsewhere. And so I was like, I want to send people your way, and so we have like co-branded a brush kind of pack together. And it's like 16 quid for a set of 4 Kolinsky sable brushes, and I challenge anyone to get cheaper than that. Now, price isn't necessarily the USP. They're good brushes, but it's much better than the starter brush. So I'm like, it's great for beginners to get so they're not going to get a brush that puts them off painting. Anyway, I digress. The reality is I would really love to progress other things in that same way, so that I can give beginners, like, here are the 10 things you need to start, or here, or maybe I go into sourcing a brush manufacturer myself and branding something. And it's not that it needs to make a massive amount of profit. I just want to do things to encourage more people into the hobby. And so I like that side of it, but again, now I'm playing into the beginner end of things, and I also want to do the competition side of things, and I'm just constantly split by this sort of weird duality at either end of the painting spectrum. So the short answer is I've no idea what to expect on the YouTube channel.
That's really good to do that, though, isn't it? And I think the best thing to do is just follow your gut, follow your heart. Like, if it feels good and it feels like something you should be doing, then those are the things you should be doing. And if you're feeling like uneasy about it, or it's not really your love, then you can swerve it. But this is an exciting time, mate. Sounds like it's a really exciting time for you, and really excited to speak to you again in a few months and potentially see what's occurred and what's developed, and we can
likewise. I might have a golden demon by then, who knows?
Who knows, eh? You might be living up in Tuscany. They'll ask you to stay on and just teach all the best painters in the world how to do stuff. But
that's the dream.
Thanks a lot for your time, Alex. We really appreciate it, and no doubt we'll speak to you.
Thank you very much.
There you go, episode 200, and I've forgotten because I'm just laughing. I literally just listened to the Scottish bit at the start of the show before I came on to think if it's that bad, and I didn't realise it was the very first thing I came out with. The very first thing is, you're what I call a friendly jock. straight in with the hard-hitting, pertinent observations of a race of people. Sorry if anyone was offended by that and took it the wrong way. But, you got to understand the English-Scottish kind of relationship that exists, which has been bumpy, to say the least. But I think if we're at a period of friendly banter, I think compared to what it has been or could potentially be, everyone's happy with that. But anyway, thanks once again to Alex for coming onto the show. Really good guest, really great guy. Really good to just chat to him and hear his insight and hear his experience. It was really, really cool. Remember, you can email me paintalltheminis@gmail.com if you have anything you want to talk about, whether it's official or unofficial. As always, if you think you've got a little chum that's getting involved in a hobby or is involved in a hobby that might appreciate the show that you've just listened to, send them a quick little link. Send it to them via text message or email or whatever it is, because you never know that they might really enjoy it, and then you use a little shared experience that you can have together. Hobby stuff this week. I have been in organisation mode. I guess it's because I've had a big long summer holiday and I'm about a month back into my regular work schedule. And we had a rain day on Monday. So on Monday it was like a typhoon that passed quite close to us. So on Monday I was going to paint, but then I was like, nah, I'm going to organise. So I got my organisation hat on and I spent all my hobby time this week pretty much. I did do some basing, but most of my hobby time this week, like 95% of my hobby time this week has just come from organising. All of my drawers not my knickers drawers, not those sort of drawers. I've been organising all of my hobby drawers, my paints, my brushes, my glues, my basin materials, my kind of hobby standby drawers, which are my hobby standby drawers are like stuff that I got these drawers from IKEA, and they quite nicely fit a whole bunch of models, just kind of like assembled but kind of lying in wait. So I've got 2 of these IKEA drawer sets. Not all of it's hobby stuff, some of it is my actual drawers and my socks and stuff. Like you needed to know that, but most of the drawers have got my hobby stuff in, so I just organised all of the drawers. I organised the heck out of all of my drawers, and that's good. It's really cathartic, that, I think, isn't it? I kind of rotated a few of the things that I've not got around to painting. I bought some. I've not mentioned this one for a while. I commissioned a company here in China to make some custom foam, because I just wanted to know, like, how much does that cost? Because you see like Feldherr and you see a whole bunch of other like custom foam organizations, and it's expensive, innit? Like, and it's really good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing the quality of the product, but whenever I look at like custom foam, I'm always like, that's really expensive for just foam. So I commissioned a local company to make some foam. There's a cardboard box from IKEA. I'm just so amazing with my research. I can't remember what the drawers are called. Can't remember what the box are called, but it's like a white cardboard box. So I knew that those existed. So I made a custom foam insert for that IKEA box. And it's a foam insert that's got like a standardized hole across. And I was like, right, I'm gonna make this foam of this size with this amount of insert, like, gaps for little dudes. I measured my biggest average dude, and I was like, right, so it needs to be that size, no bigger, no smaller. It was like in A Song of Ice and Fire guy with a banner. I was like, he's my biggest banner guy. So I commissioned it, and I got like 25 of these foam inserts, and they worked really, really well. But the glue was gaff. So when I'd needed them, I kind of like put a better glue on to hold them all together. But I only did so many. So on organisation, I kind of blatted through and I kind of did all of those, and so I organised, different things, and that works really well. By the way, like the moral of the story is that, like, one, it's really cheap to make custom foam. It's the making it is not the big deal. So if you see like custom foam expensive, it's not the making it. The making it is pennies. I designed it, so obviously I saved a whole bunch of money there because I designed it, and what makes it so expensive is shipping it from China, where it's probably made, to whatever country you're in, and storing it. That costs a whole bunch of money, and then the person that sells it to you making profit, right? So those are the things that actually cost the money. The designer getting some money out of it, storage, shipping, and then making a profit out of actually selling it. So I can see why they're expensive. It annoys me that they're that expensive. I'm unsure about whether to do a big run again, but I guess I would run into the same problems that those producers would. That if I get a bunch of people in America that really want some of this foam, if I get a whole bunch of people in Europe and in the UK that really want this foam, I guess I'm going to bump into the same problems. It's like a shipping type thing, right? But and then obviously when it gets to the UK, you might have to pay duty on it, pay taxes and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to do like just not even a paint all the means thing, not even like, I'd just be like, hey guys, I can do like 7,000 of these bad boys that'll fit into these IKEA boxes that you can get in IKEA, because IKEA like exists like on the moon and stuff, right? But I just think it would be it's annoying that it's not as easy as that. Everyone's got the rand out and everyone's looking to kind of take some money out of you. So anyway, I know it is called the Post Ramble for a reason, right? But yeah, so this week has been spent just organising all the stuff, and yeah, really nice. Cleaned all my hobby desk down, cleaned my cutting mat down, cleaned the paint wash station, brush station, just blatted through all of that stuff. I'm also on the market for a hobby lamp. I got a while ago. I got a Green Stuff World like hobby halo or hobby arch lamp. And it's good, but I do feel that at times that it doesn't give the best light all the time, and so I'm on the hunt for a supplementary or a different hobby lamp. So if you've got a hobby lamp that really, really works, let me know on the Discord or email me or whatever, because I'm kind of not seriously, but I'm kind of looking for an extra little bit of hobby lamp, because I just find that there's certain angles with that arch lamp that you just it doesn't really work. And part of it is like eyesight and old and stuff, but also part of it is that I just don't think it's the optimal angle for my painting miniatures. So I need to make sure I try and sort that out to get the optimal light cast onto my miniatures. But I'm very interested to know what you have been up to over your hobby week. Thank you to everybody on the Discord who's been posting their miniatures, both whips and also their sticker fork in it's done section. There's been some awesome stuff. I need to make a special mention to Mr. Late Night Painting who's been painting a Kingdom Death Monster figure for a long time. And he has worked really, really hard on two things. He's worked really, really hard on light and how the light affects the model. And he's also worked really, really hard on skin tone. And so just taking some time, I've been poring over that thing for ages. And not because it's a scantily clad female, although it is a scantily clad female. That's not why I've been ogling it for ages. It's just really good, man. It's just so good. And I hope that he is getting their fulfillment of the finished job, however he gets his fulfillment, whether it's intrinsic, he's got all the fulfillment he needs just by doing it himself, or whether he's extrinsically fulfilled, by people saying that he's done a great job. Whichever it is, both of those are fine, but I hope he's getting the acclaim internally or externally that he needs, because it's awesome, really good. Thank you, Mr. Late Night Painting, for posting that. And that's not to detract away from anybody else that's painting stuff. It's just that one in particular has been kicking around the whip section and the sticker fork in it's done section for a long time, and it's brilliant. It's really, really good. But I think that's enough of the post ramble. I have a lot of other stuff I could ramble on about, but I think you've had enough. You've done enough, you've stuck around enough, you've shown enough patience to be here this far. Get yourself away, have a cup of tea, have a sit down, have one of your favourite biscuits, whatever that is, or cookie if you're in America. And I'm trying to think what my favourite biscuit would be. Not a biscuit, that's something I really try to cut out. I'm hoping to have a conversation with Mr. Matthew McLean in the near future about diet and what we do to kind of keep ourselves fairly in trim, because I know he works hard to keep himself in trim. I work to an acceptable level keeping myself in trim, but biscuits has been one of the victims. I do love a biscuit, I do love a cookie, but those have been largely cut out of my entire diet. Jammy Dodgers, they're pretty good. Party rings, they're pretty good. Digestives, good old standard. There's loads of biscuits that I'm salivating on. I do love a biscuit and a cup of tea. If you give me a cricket game, a cup of tea, and a packet of digestives, you probably won't hear from me for about an hour or two. I'll leave you alone. So if ever I'm annoying you and you need just a bit of face, cricket game, cup of tea, with a packet of digestive biscuits, I'm happy. That's my happy place. But that's enough of the post ramble. I hope you guys are keeping on an even keel. Reach out, connect, talk, form and sustain positive relationships with people, because that's what life is all about. And until next time we're together, keep slobbering all over your laptop because you're thinking about biscuits.